Welcome everyone to our Wednesday mastermind. It's called Attraction in Action. It's open to anybody and everybody. And I encourage you to show up week after week. I don't know about you guys. When I finish this call, man, I am on fire. I am ready to go out and attract the world to EXP. So maybe you showed up today for motivation. Maybe you showed up today to grab one strategy or tactic that you can implement and deploy like right now in your business to grow your revenue share group. Whatever reason you showed up, I'm glad you're here. And today, we talked about the 4 different things we need to focus on. Before we started the recording, it's recruiting, it's retention, it's revenue or per agent production, and then it's reproduction. I want to hear some strategies from people right now in a shifting market. How are you retaining your agents? What specifically are you doing right now to make sure that once they come to EXP, they stay at EXP? Talk to me. Now, gang, how you participate here is how you're going to participate in your revenue share growth. So I encourage you, raise your hand. And Jack, I see your hand is up. Take it away.
We do weekly, monthly, and quarterly trainings and events and meetup. And we do happy hour.
I love that. Realtors tend to love happy hour. It makes total sense. Jack, out of curiosity, what is your percentage of engagement from the overall revenue share group to getting people to show up?
Depends on the event, because currently we're in SoCal, kind of spread out in we have 5 locations actually right now. So each group, they do their own thing. But as far as people who live nearby, I think like 30% maybe.
30%, which is a pretty good number, no doubt about that. It's funny to me that you can drag that horse to water, you just can't make it drink, right? So 30% engagement is pretty darn good, Jack, no doubt about that. I see that our special guest has shown up today. Albie, you with me?
Yeah, hey, Sean, sorry I was in the wrong spot.
Hey, all good things, brother. I'm sorry if it was on our end, but I'm so grateful that you're here. Thank you so much for being here, Albie. You're going to just crush it today. I already have a sense. I've been so excited about this. I've been following you on Instagram. I'm watching your videos. I mean, dude, you're killing it with content. And I want to get into that today. Yet before we dive in, I just want you to kind of tell your story. I mean, how'd you get into real estate? What did you find to be really exciting about it? What did you find to be really challenging? How did you get engaged with the EXP and the Honey Badger organization? And where are you headed? What's the vision? So I'm just going to turn it over to you, brother. Take it away. I'm so excited.
I didn't want to cut Jack off. It seemed like he was on a roll there for a second. Are you sure you're done with your thoughts with Jack?
Well, Jack, if you'd like to add on, but I would love for that to happen. Quite frankly, I was just looking for ways to add value to the group as we were just kind of waiting to get to you, because you have the spotlight, brother. I am so excited. I got my remarkable tablet out. I'm ready to just write notes and just learn from everything that you've done here at EXP and learn from your past as well.
Well, you're setting the bar high, Sean, so I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, I was licensed back in '98, and it was in a little brokerage, Century 21 brokerage shop that my dad was a part-time agent. So I kind of grew up as, the son of a part-time agent. And I never really thought I would sell real estate because I was the guy, maybe you can relate. I don't know, Sean, I was the kid that would watch my dad make cold calls, through it was called a Haynes directory. And he would just pick a street and call every number. That was back in the day when there actually used to be telephones plugged into walls.
Right.
So I watched him, muddle through that pain. And I was like, I am never selling. If this is what it takes to sell real estate, I'm out. I'm like, because I'm not doing that. But I hung out with him just because he was working 2 jobs and he would go up to, the Century 21 office in the 80s. And I just went up there just to hang with him, And so long story shorter, I ended up dropping out of Cleveland State University after figuring that the only thing I was going to graduate was a major in bonging beers and foosball, which that's not going to get you too far. So I was like, dropped out of that. I ended up going into the trucking industry because I was unemployable and they'll hire anybody really, like to move furniture and stuff. I ended up fast forward getting my CDL and I was over the road truck driver for a while. And I came to a point where I was like, it's time to do something with my life. It was like I was 23 years old or something like that. And so I was like, well, I know I could probably get a real estate license, and it's a high ticket item. So got my license, and I just began my journey of trying to figure out the best way of growing that business. And I've always been a seeker of information and a seeker of coaching, and tried to scrape up whatever I could from nuggets of people that I've met along the path. And, what brought me to here is in 2009, if anyone on here was in the business in 2009, you know how tough it was coming out of that dip, that recession that crashed the real estate market and everything else. And I met Michael Reese and Jay Kinder, not physically, by the way. I met them because they were ended up in my inbox because they're great marketers. And I started following the free tips that they were giving me. And I'm like, dang, these guys, this Oklahoma accent knows something I don't know. And they're younger than me. What the heck? So I just started doing what they were saying for free. Then I ended up hiring them as a coach in 2010. And my business started, doubling every single year after that. Ended up becoming one of their coaches in 2013. I became one of their coaches, and I opened up my own. I left Remax at the time and opened my own shop as an independent broker. And then 2016, we had our best year, and I lost a couple of my biggest agents in my brokerage. And then, Cliff Freeman was my first real estate coach with Kinder Reese, was trying to tell me about this cloud-based company that was trading on, penny stock. It was, they were trading on the over-the-counter market. And I'm like, I'm good, Cliff. I kept blowing them off. I probably blew them off for 3 months. And then I took a look at this model after I lost 2 of my top agents. And I was like, okay, fine. Just let me look at this and get you off my back. That was literally what I said to him. And when I looked at it, that's where, once you see it, you can't unsee it. Jay said that the first time I had a discussion with him about EXP. And that was it. I brought my real estate. I brought the whole brokerage over in 2017, August. Mike and Jay followed suit the next month after that. And Honey Badger Nation was formed that month, November of 2017. So that's how we sort of started the whole Honey Badger movement. It actually started out kind of as a funny joke because we didn't know what to call the group. We needed a Facebook group to be able to communicate, coach, help, collaborate, but we didn't know where. Workplace wasn't a thing with EXP at the time. So we just started a Facebook group. We're like, what are we going to call it? Like, well, let's call it Honey Badger Nation. Like, as a joke, kind of, we were going to change it down the road, but people loved it so much, we just kind of left it. And
well, we've all seen the Honey Badger video on YouTube, no doubt about that.
Yeah.
I love it. So how many in Honey Badger Nation now? What's total group size?
I think there's like 13,500 agents in the group, so it's Michael, Jay, and I are partners. So, it's basically my revenue share group, then Jay's 7th level, then Michael's 7th. So it's the whole thing encompassed is about 13.5.
Fantastic. And there's usually 1, 2, or 3, maybe generals or empire builders within that first level. You're obviously one of them, Albie. If you don't mind, how many in your personal organization?
Just over 6,500.
Congratulations, brother. Way to go. I love it. How many FLQAs?
FLQA, that's a problem.
Okay, well, let's talk about it because, hey, we all have problems, right? And the size.
Well, and it's a good topic. I mean, I figure if we're going to spend some time together, let's spend time on what I think, if you're a builder, which I'm assuming you wouldn't be on this Zoom if you weren't, then we're probably a lot of us experiencing a lot of the same problems. I mean, I've been watching our organization size, take a few steps back and then takes a few steps forward, then back again. So it's, since October, it's been kind of this, and which when you kind of level it out, it's really been maintaining. Most months it felt like we were taking steps back, but then we would take a step forward. So FLQAs, yeah, they've dropped down to, I think I dropped down to 37 last month, and that costs a lot of money, more than I'm wanting to talk about on this right now. But, you know, at the end of the day, it just, it all boils down to the same principle. You know, what do the agents need most? I was just on a, you know, right before this, part of the reason why I thought that I double booked this, and I thought that it was the same. Sometimes things go in your calendar twice. I thought it was just made it in twice. It was here as someone else, but we were talking about, you know, what's the biggest challenge with agents right now? There's a lot of people dropping out, and I look at things from a macro standpoint of in 12 months, where are we going to be? So in my mind, I'm trying to think of, you know, for the last 5 years, it's been, how do we double our business? And in good markets, it's easy to double your business. You're a coach, you know, it's not that hard. What's harder is to either maintain or double your business when in a market correction, which I believe is, we're still in that. I believe we're still moving toward, you know, lower prices in 12 months. So the question becomes, how do you reposition your strategy? How do you reposition your business? If you're in the business of agent attraction, you're just in the business of solving problems for real estate agents. It's that simple. If you're a coach, you're in the business of solving problems. Money's not exchanged unless problems are solved. Coach Burt says that all the time. So, you know, if that's true, and I do believe it's true, then it's just a question of, how do we find what the biggest problem is? You know, and I think that if you are riding the wave of all this greatness that we've seen in the last few years, then you're going to be riding that same wave down. But if you're not riding a wave, but yet you're taking full accountability for your own success, you're putting offers out into the marketplace and putting the right type of funnel and offer for whatever audience you're hoping to attract business from, then you're going to stay ahead of that curve off of riding the wave, and you're going to be creating your own wave. And I think that's where we're focused on helping agents, you know, hop off the roller coaster, the real estate roller coaster that looks like this, and try to get them on a trajectory that looks more like this, because it's great having a great month, but it's really bad having a bad one. And if we can level that out with marketing strategies that can help agents right now. I was just on a call with a broker out of young lady out of California, and she did 8 transactions last year. Now our average sales price is 950,000. So it's still not a terrible year with 8, but she wants to do 16. And I said, where did the 8 come from? And she said, sphere of influence, just people that know me, which is great. But at one point, you're going to have to figure out how to turn $1 into marketing and said differently, into a client that will close. And that's what that's our belief, that if we can help someone do that, we can get them off of that roller coaster and some more certainty. So that's kind of where we're focused on with our agent attraction efforts, is looking for the biggest problem and helping people solve it. I know it sounds
fantastic. So in essence, you just put on the coaching hat. You become their coach. You help them solve the problem by introducing new strategies and tactics that they can implement and deploy to increase their production. Well, see, here's one thing I believe, Albie and everybody else, is that the easiest way to build rapport and gain trust with people is through education. When you can teach them something, anything, they almost automatically trust you. Then you can leverage that trust to create a more professional relationship and conversation about shifting over to EXP, no doubt about it. So that's what you're demonstrating, Albie. I just wanted to underline that real quick. And Darren, you've been really patient with your hand up. Take it away, my friend. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just curious, Albie, you said that it took 3 months before you kind of came over to EXP. How did that process work? What was the presentation like that actually hooked you? How did they get you to finally take a look at it? And how did you look at it? Was it a video? Was it a one-on-one? How did that look?
Well, Darren, what's hooking me right now is the background of your boat. And I hope that that's a true, you're on your boat and it's not just the background, because that's hooking me right now. That's where I need to be. Give me some of that.
This is my vision board. I live in my vision board right here.
Yeah. Well, up in Ohio, we don't get to start our boating season till May. So that boating season is going to start for me here in about, I'm counting down the weeks here, but So what occurred 5.5, almost 6 years ago, actually it was right around this time, 6 years ago, was I was coming off of our best year ever. And if you've ever had like a best year, one that you're like, yeah, looking back at this year, I'm proud of that year, like you're going to high five yourself. That's how I felt in 2016. I had hired a coach for social media. I was getting, my marketing was just, things were just firing really, really well. And so, when you feel that way, it's really hard to talk to someone who's having a really good year. Because typically, whether you're a broker or a team leader or even a solo agent, if you're having a really good year, you don't want to screw it up. So you're like, well, I mean, things are going really good right now. Why would I want to throw a wrench in it? That was my mindset. And it wasn't because I was necessarily closed-minded, but you tend to want to protect what's working. And especially when you've been working your tail off trying to figure it out, and then you think you've figured it out, you don't want to mess it up. So that was sort of my mindset. To answer your question, what made me look at it was some pain. And this is when a lot of people, I'm sure, Sean, you get people asking you to hop on a call and help you with your agent attraction. And it's a lot of the same conversations that I have over and over again. And it's tough. People are like, well, how do I get into a conversation with this guy? He's killing it. I'm like, well, sometimes you can get into a conversation, but if they're not feeling any pain, it's hard to open up the gate of the mind, like Gene Frederick says. If it's closed, it's closed, and it has to be opened from within. And what opened my gate up within was my number 1 agent, Christy, and my number 3 agent, Sue, deciding they wanted to team up and go over to Keller Williams and take their talents over there with 2 of my other agents. And I watched, $400,000 in income and 4 really great relationships, not in any particular order. I valued the relationships, like they were my sisters. So, it was a very emotional time and costly to watch $400,000 walk out the door to Keller Williams. So, I went from having my best year thinking, I had this whole thing figured out, to, wow, I just got smacked, by a 2x4, and I was actually coaching with Chet Black at the time, and he has this funny little, we're really good friends even to today, but at the time I was coaching with him, and he goes, oh, so you got 2 Christmas presents, did you? He calls them Christmas presents when your top agents want to have that conversation with you and say that they're taking their talent somewhere else. I'm like, yeah, I did. And then, Cliff was just banging on me, and Cliff said, would you just tell me that I'm crazy? And, I call him Uncle Cliffy because he's just, he was my first real estate coach, and I love him like a uncle. And I said, fine, Uncle Cliffy, I'll look at your dang EXP thing that you're talking about, as long as you get off my back about it. Because the answer I'm positive is going to be a no, but I'll just do it because I'll look at this. And I think it was the right time. I had a nice mix of pain with a little bit of an open-mindedness. And that's all it really took. And I looked at it while I was skimming my pool, actually, at the time. In fact, if I want to be very transparent, I was skimming a pool that I wasn't sure how I was going to pay for and afford anymore. We had just closed on our dream home, big, huge home with a pool and a guest house and all this. And I just had my top agents walk out on me, and I'm like, okay, well, I guess I have to go back and list houses again. Not that that's the end of the world by any means. Don't take that the wrong way, but I will tell you this, if there's anybody listening, and if you've scaled your business to a point where you've gotten out of production and then you have to go back in production. I've never been to prison, and I hope I never have to go, but I imagine it's kind of like getting out of prison. You can imagine that. And then being told you got to go back in. That's how I looked at it. That may not be the most healthy way of looking at it, but it was enough. That was how I associated the pain of wanting to get back out again. It motivates you pretty at a high level to start recruiting. And I had no recruit. That was the other thing too, is like, I wasn't a recruiter ever. The most number of agents I had in my brokerage was 12. So after the ladies left, you can do the quick math. It went down to 8. And then I brought 2 brand new agents back on. And that 10 is what I brought over to EXP with me. You know, when we made the switch. So
a couple of things I want to say about this, Albie. Number one, timing has a lot to do with the outcome of a rain dance. There's no doubt about that. So you might reach out to somebody like Uncle Cliffy was with Albie, right? And he's hounding him for 3-4 months, right? To get him to just even open his eyes to investigate the model. Now, Albie, just a very direct and somewhat personal question for you. How did ego come into play with your resistance to investigating the model? Have you analyzed that? Have you thought about it?
well, it's funny. Are you reading my my shirt?
Yeah.
Is that why you're asking the question?
No, I didn't even see the shirt, honestly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just see what I found is that people who have worked hard to build a brokerage, they kind of look at that as a child or their baby, right?
Yeah.
And to say, oh, I'm going to give up on this dream that I've been pursuing for years and years and years, finally arriving to say, no, now I'm going to maybe jump ship. I'm going to do a 180 and I'm going to get away from this dream that I've been pursuing. Ego comes into play a lot.
It does come in a lot. And I'm not saying that I'm trying to compare myself exactly to some of the brokers that you're talking about or not. I'm sure there's a nice mix of it. The difference with me was it wasn't so much. So Michael and Jay had a vision of doing similar like an EXP, and it was called NAEA Partner. And that partner model was very similar. Nothing like what Glenn built. Obviously, what Glenn built is 100x better. And part of the reason why it's better is because it's simpler. It's simple, it's easy, and it scales. And our model did not, but we didn't know that at the time. But we were in learner mode big time. So the difference with me with ego, Sean, is we were already in learner mode. We've been in learner mode trying to figure it out because we were trying to scale nationally and it just wasn't working. So, you know, that's why I say it was that kind of an almost even sense of wanting to keep our minds were open in solving the problem. We really, you know, weren't thinking that it was going to be the EXP model that was going to solve the problem. We were feeling like we had to solve it ourselves.
Yeah.
But we were already in learner mode. So did ego have, I would say this, for me, it was more ignorance than ego that probably had me not looking at it earlier. It was more ignorance because we were focused on solving the same problems that EXP focused. We just were looking in a different direction in solving them. So it was a matter of, yeah, like checking the ego a little bit more at the door so that I would see it. But it wasn't because we weren't open-minded. It was that we were focused, that we thought we had it figured out. Like our solution was the solution.
Yeah.
I think that the biggest problem that you may see, and some of the people on this call may see, is that the bigger challenge is trying to get someone to admit they have a problem.
That's right. And that's the ego part that I'm talking about, right?
That is the ego part, right?
Oh, don't worry about it, man. I got this.
We knew we had problems. We knew we had problems. We just thought we were looking in the wrong direction for the solution. So if you can get some,
I know, that's what I was thinking. Sorry, I keep
Hey, Tim, could you take care of the background noise real quick? And Amber, if you wouldn't mind, thank you. Okay, keep going. Sorry.
no, that was all. I finished my thought.
Right on. Okay, let's go over to Andy real quick, because I get a ton of questions myself, yet I want this group to get what they want from you. So Andy, go ahead. Unmute yourself, man. Take it away.
Hey, Al. So I was on another one of these attraction masterminds, and I remember someone mentioning the importance of checking in with your agents before you have that conversation. You know, you kind of like preemptively talk about, you know, hey, how's it going? Have you had any thoughts of like leaving or joining another team? And so when you got these 2 Christmas presents, were there any signs that your agents were kind of thinking of jumping ship, or was that like a complete surprise?
No, it was a bit of a surprise for me because, and normally if you were to ask me that, I would probably, like if it was someone else, I would say, well, it's a surprise because you weren't paying attention. to your business. For me, it was a surprise because they weren't actually even thinking of making a move. It wasn't something. What happened was my top agent was doing a co-broke with someone by the name of Greg. And when she tried to call him back to negotiate the deal, it was she accidentally dialed the wrong Greg. Unfortunately for me, it was Greg, who was a team leader of someone at Keller Williams. That led into a recruiting call, a lunch, and then that, you know what I'm saying? So you know, obviously there was an underlying problem, but we were in the midst of, so I thought, fixing that problem. What hit me over the head was I had the wrong solution to the problem the whole time. And so the girls leaving was a wake-up call. It was exactly probably what I needed. I thank God that they left today, because if they hadn't, I may not have looked at the EXP model. But if there were signs, I was ignorant and didn't see them, you know. But I'm sure in hindsight, you can always look back and be like, oh yeah, those were red flags.
Hey,
You know?
Cheryl asked a question in the chat. She said, have you since recruited them from from KW over to EXP? The 2 that left you, or the 4 that left you, I should say.
The answer is no. That's a good question. The team that they formed is no longer together. I predicted that because I knew the 2 of them, and even though I love them like sisters, I didn't think they'd work well together. And sure enough, they didn't. And that lasted like a year. I gave it 9 months. They beat me on that one. And then since then, they've kind of settled in and started their own team separately now. And the pain of moving to them still outweighs the pain of joining me. And I'm not a very aggressive recruiter. I don't chase anybody. And that's probably a little bit to my detriment, to be honest with you. But that's just, I'm not at a point in my life where I feel like chasing anybody. So
I'm with you on that, Albie. I mean, the bottom line is, if you have to sell them on joining EXP and you're just constantly pursuing, chances are you're going to have to sell them to stay at EXP at the same time.
that is exactly correct. 100%.
Right
And
on.
here's
So-
another thing that it's just a little observation I've made, Sean, is that in seeing big people, let's call them whales, influencers, whatever you want to call them, making the move, the ones that had dug their heels in the hardest are usually going to be your best, like up front. Once they get it, they're going to be usually your biggest builders, where, you know what I mean? Like, that's what I've noticed. Not someone that you have to convince kicking and screaming. Those people will leave quickly. I'm talking about the naysayers, the skeptics who are hard nose, and then they get it to where you don't have to pull them over kicking and screaming. They're coming. They're kicking and screaming, wanting to come. They're going to stay, and they're going to be your biggest allies and partners moving forward. So that's why I don't really try to hard sell anybody ever on this. And I've lost agent. I literally just had an agent that I was talking to for over 3, maybe 4 years. And he just called me the other day. He's like, hey, congratulations. I'm not going to tell you the other company he went to, but it's not EXP, and it's one of our competitors. And I'm like, congratulations. I'm so happy for you. You know, like, I didn't chase him down. I'm pretty sure that person will bounce right back out of where they're at. You know, if they got pulled kicking and screaming there. Yeah. I'm going to be the lifeboat. I'm going to be the lifeboat. They're ready when they're ready to move from that venture, because they made it on an emotional decision.
There you go, brother. I love it. Well said. Ashton, over to you.
Good day. Thank you all for joining us here. By the way, I'm one of your downlines. So whatever answer you give me, I'm going to come back to you. And here's my question. Maybe Sean can answer at the same time if you want to. It's about creating a system for follow-up. We know money is in follow-up. So is there any system that I can follow up with the agents? 95% of people I'm contacting, they said, no, they're not ready, they're comfortable, whatever. I don't want to lose that first connections. I want to build it up. So do you have any system in place that can help?
Yeah, Albie, let me take this one first, then I'm going to push it over to you, okay? So the question is, do we have a system for lead follow-up? Meaning they've maybe investigated the model. They're not ready now. They're not ready yet. What do you do? See, because I believe that if you consistently just contact them asking, so what are you thinking about EXP? Or you're dropping them text messages with videos about EXP. Hey, let me tell you what the stock did today. And you're talking only about EXP. Here's what I've learned. And I learned this lesson the hard way, by the way. They're going to block you. They're going to ghost you. They're never going to pick up the phone when they see your caller ID number. They're going to go away. Or at least that's what's happened to me. So what I did is I shifted gears after starting this at like 6 months in. I just shifted gears completely. I don't follow up about EXP. What I do is I follow up about their real estate sales production. I invite them on a consistent basis. Every week, they're going to receive an email and a text message from me to invite them to engage in my Tuesday afternoon mastermind session called Accelerated Breakthrough. Now, this is all about improving sales performance, where we focus on meat per minute, and we talk about strategies and tactics that they can implement and deploy to increase their production in real estate sales. Now, I invite them on a weekly basis. I might have talked to them 3 months ago about EXP, and then I see them show up to the Zoom meeting, and I'm like, oh, this person's plugging back in. So after the session, I'll make a little note, right? After the session, once I'm done with my coaching sessions for the day, then I'll drop them a quick text message. Hey, did you enjoy today's session? What did you gain? See, I want to re-engage with them on a different level, and then we can have a talk about their production. So, yeah, somebody says, I'm just not looking to make a move. I'm happy where I'm at. I say, that's fantastic. Yet, one thing I know about real estate agents is this, that the more money they're making, the higher their net worth, the less time they have to spend grinding it out at work, well, the happier they are. So it's really about your production and your bank account balance at the end of the day. Am I right? And they say, yes, now I can have a real conversation about production and bank account balance, and I can weave in the EXP model in those types of conversations. It just makes sense. Yet, again, if I follow up about EXP and EXP alone, guys, they're going to ghost me. I know that, or at least I believe that. It might be a hallucination, yet it's happened so many times that I just said, listen, I'm going to stop that approach. I'm going to follow up with them with value. I'm going to come from contribution. Now, when we come from contribution, the walls that separate us, guys, they melt away. That trust begins to build, that rapport begins to build, and then you can have a conversation on the level you want to create. And Albie, I'll let you add on to what I've said, yet what are you doing for lead follow-up?
Well, I mean, everything that you just said is exactly, I mean, if you guys are taking notes and there was one word that you had to write down, and it was, I just cleaned my board off, but I would show you my board. I could show you the board because I'm starting over. I deleted a lot of people that I was following up that I was getting ghosted on. And that's not to say that you should do that, by the way. I've been doing this for a long time. So if I feel like it's just going to go nowhere, or I've gotten them to the finish line, what we call the red zone, and then they just keep dropping back off, I know that, there's going to be a point in time where I'm not going to put any more energy toward that and drop off. But one word is invite. It's what you just said, Sean. And I mean, I had it up on my whiteboard. That's my whiteboard's right there. And it's not as full because I'm rebuilding my hit list. So my goal this week is to add 5 new agents to my hit list. My hit list is my follow-up system that I'm not selling this book. So just letting you know, because it's actually not available on Amazon yet to sell. But this book I just co-authored with Coach Burt and Jay Kinder called
What's it called?
It's called $1 Million Follow-Up for Real Estate Agents. And it's basically a very simple system that I use for follow-up, that I put people on a hit list, and I'm visual. I have them in a CRM, but I'm a visual guy, so I want them on my whiteboard. And then I have what's called the red zone. And I simplify it so much to the point where you're on the list and I'm inviting these people to everything every week. So the question I write on my whiteboard, and I will rewrite it because I just wiped it off yesterday and I'm rebuilding the list, is what am I inviting to today? Period. That's the question I look at every day when I walk into my office. What am I inviting to today? And so in 2 weeks, we're doing a continuing education on human trafficking. That's a charity that I'm pretty passionate about. We do a concert every year that it's a rock concert that we do for charity every year. And the proceeds go to a couple different charities that fight human trafficking. So like we're doing a continuing ed class on human trafficking in 2 weeks. For the next 2 weeks, I'm really going to be doing nothing but inviting to that event. And I'm inviting. And if I'm not inviting to that event, I'm going to, because let's say they're not local. If I have people on my list, everyone on that list is local at this point, but I often have times where people are not local. Then I would be inviting them to the trainings that we do live in Honey Badger Nation every week. We have 3 or 4 live trainings every week, and I just invite to them. So if there's one thing that everyone can take away from is like, if your daily activities have anything other than inviting people, start migrating your daily activities into inviting more and just doing more of that, which is exactly what you said, Sean. So I just regurgitated exactly what you just said.
Awesome, Albie, and thank you for underlining that. And by the way, it doesn't have to be about real estate sales. Invite them to everything that you're doing. Like, for example, Albie, I want an invitation to go to Put in Bay with you this summer. Okay, so seriously, put me down on your list. I'm coming. All right. Todd Watkins, my brother from another mother. How you doing, brother?
We got the Put in Bay Island right there. That's where I'm gonna be.
I love it, man. I want to go. All right, Todd Watkins, take it away.
Sign me up. Yeah. So I guess one of the questions I had is, I feel like I'm kind of the stepchild to my sponsor. He has to put up with me because I'm there, but I need to bring more people in. So with that, but I guess one of the thoughts that I have is I'm tired of like just bringing on new agents, or like, I don't want to say subpar agents. I would rather just bring in a whole group. And so I guess I'm curious to see strategies wise, like hitting up like the mom and pop shops or the small brokerages, the boutiques. Because I mean, that's basically what I was when Sean basically hit me in the head with a 2x4. And it was like, the perfect storm for me, because I was dealing with the Department of Licensing and dealing with a BS like claim from the public that was like filing like an ethics complaint against me. And I was like, you know what? Like, this is stupid. Like, why am I doing all this? Like, the struggle is optional. And Sean's way, like, it makes so much sense. Let's just go ahead and move right into it.
Right. I'm so grateful that you made that decision.
So I guess my question, the whole ramble is just, how do you approach the broker owners?
Albie, take it away.
I mean, I appreciate it, Todd. We all would rather bring in 50 to 100 at a time versus one at a time. I mean, sign me up for that one. But I think I think the big lesson in what you just described right now is that, like, if you did look at my hit list over there, it's team leader, broker, high producer, team leader. And before I erased some of them, that was team leader. So the quality of your list, the quality of your hit list, the quality of your red zone, when you're getting people to that, right, like they're right there, right? The quality of that is going to be in direct proportion to the quality of your revenue share group and how fast it grows. And so when you think about it from a sense, and I know this is easy for you to think about like this, Sean, because you ran a coaching company or still do, we're in the business of helping agents and brokers and team leaders solve their problem. If you spend the majority of your time trying to figure out how to get someone from 0 transactions to 10, that's the stage that you're focused on, then you can bring on lots of agents. There's no doubt, because there's more agents that need to figure out how to get to 10 or 20 transactions than you're going to find that need to figure out how to get to 200. But it's about the quality of the room. So we focused out of the gates on teams and brokerages. And that was our focus. It still is today. That's not to say that we won't bring on agents that are trying to get to 20. We help them every day. No doubt. But I think, Todd, where you have it nailed is, where do you want to spend your time? I mean, the time is the only thing that we have. It's not an infinite amount of his time. We can make all the money we want, but it's time. So if you're spending the same amount of time in agent attraction and your list looks like mine that has team leaders and brokers, independent brokers on it, and that's who you're spending your energy on, well, you're probably going to see different results. than someone who is focused on the agent who's trying to go from 5 deals to 15. And there's nothing wrong or right, but you will scale a lot faster if you have people that have a growth mindset. And typically the people that have a leveraged growth mindset are brokers and team leaders. The reason why they started a team was leverage. The reason why someone went and get their broker's license, I would think, other than wanting to just keep all the money, that's one reason. But the other, which I think is, is leverage, the ability to grow your own brokerage and hire agents and put them on splits and earn some type of indirect income. I don't like using the word passive income because it's that running a brokerage is not passive, but leveraged income, I should say.
Well, I want everybody to do one thing. I want you to go to Instagram, look up Albie. I want you to follow him. He's got 24,000 followers. And guys, he's doing some really great things on Instagram. I want you to analyze exactly what he's doing and how he's doing it. He is focused on valuable content, which creates that magnetic approach. It attracts people to you. Am I right, Albie?
Yeah, I was just looking it up because that was a lot more followers than I thought I had. I was like, holy mackerel, is there an imposter? Because yeah, I think the last time I looked, there was like 11,000. But hey, if there's 24, then maybe I'm.
I think that's what I saw this morning when I was doing a little research on you, buddy. And some great videos, great content, editing skills. Who's doing your editing, by the way? Is that you?
It's not me. Absolutely.
Not me. Good. So I always think in terms of who, not you. Love the music that you've selected, everything that you're doing. It's just amazing, no doubt. So a couple of questions came in through the chat. Then Darren, we're going to come back to you. Number one is from Nick. Nick says, well, what's the best way to attract from KW? What's their number one pain point? What are the points of differentiation maybe about the model that needs to be expressed in such a way that they can self-discover the problem? What do you think?
I don't know that that's the right question. It's not because I don't appreciate the curiosity behind the question. The reason I don't think it's the right question is like, you can say the same thing about, well, what's the easiest way to recruit from Remax? What's the easiest way to recruit from Berkshire? And you're not necessarily recruiting them from that brand. I think if you try to recruit them from the brand, it's the wrong approach. And the reason is because most people believe, think about it like this, okay? If you're at Keller Williams, I don't have to tell you, Sean, you spent most of your career there, right? So like, but when you're there, you have a belief, there's just an assumption that your belief is that you're in exactly where you need to be, that you're in the right place and you love the brand and you're behind the brand. So when you try to recruit against the brand, you're going to cross hairs with someone and probably piss them off, because the thing that like happened with me was that the biggest Keller Williams recruiters, when I was at Remax, they were trying to recruit me all the time. And one of the biggest reasons I didn't come was because they made me feel stupid for being at Remax. Like, well, so when are you going to come to Keller Williams? That's a very arrogant approach. And maybe it'll work for some people, but it pushed me away. So I don't think, in trying to recruit away from a brand is the right approach. I think people leave and join leaders. So if whoever the leader is, there's really great leaders at Keller Williams right now. And if people are loving their leader and they're having a good year and things are good, it's probably going to be hard to recruit against that. You're not going to convince them that they're in the wrong place. I think it's a matter of connecting with people on a relationship level, a human level, and then hoping, if there's a problem, you're there and, they're going to turn to you to help them solve that problem when it comes time, like when enough has been enough, Yep. and just making sure you're in a good spot in that relationship with them when it does happen. And if you're not having enough of those conversations, you just need to have more conversations. Get to the board, get to the YPN meetings, get to the board meetings, get to the women's council. This is a contact sport. Get in there and build more. You don't have enough? Go in there and find them and build them. Like, what else are you going to do?
And by the way, I don't care what brokerage they're associated with. There are profound points of differentiation between EXP and all other models. No doubt about that. So they show up to this conversation you're going to have with them about EXP in a positive present mindset, meaning I'm at Berkshire Hathaway. I'm happy where I'm at. I believe it's going to bring me to this positive future that I seek. Your job is to give a problem presentation. Now, you can't tell them they have a problem, right? They're going to become defensive. Am I right, Albie?
Yeah.
They become defensive if you tell them they have a problem. You've got to get them to self-discover the problem. Now, the way that I do this, many of you are familiar with my methodology. I get them to rate their current broker on a scale from 0 to 10. So I have to do a little posturing, because if I just dove right into that, then it feels a little bit awkward. So I start off every conversation with, today's call is all about you. In fact, tell me what needs to happen over the course of the next 30 minutes for you to hang up this call and say, Sean, that was like a 15 on a scale from 0 to 10. You say, well, I just need to learn how to generate more leads in today's crazy market. Well, fantastic. That'll be my job to help you determine how to generate more leads. Yet, before we just dive into a broker assessment, because I want to do an apples to apples comparison, I believe that prescription before diagnosis is malicious malpractice. Would you agree with that? So what I want you to do is rate your current broker on a scale from 0 to 10 on 5 different points, so that we can, in fact, compare apples to apples. Is that fair? So I get them to rate 0 to 10 on 5 different points. Number 1 is the technology platform to provide more leads, set more appointments, have more closings, make more money, 0 to 10. Next is educational platform to improve their knowledge, skills, mindset, and habits so they can provide for themselves and their loved ones, no matter what the market conditions are. Number 3 is stock, equity, ownership in the organization they work so hard for. Number 4 is their ability to compete head on with Open Door and Redfin that are heavily funded, want to put us out of business. Okay. Number 5 is residual and passive income. And I'm always going to stop with rev share. So then I add up the numbers. Okay. Let's say out of a possible score of 50. And as a sidebar comment, anytime they rate their broker less than a 10 on a scale from 0 to 10, they're automatically shifting to this negative present. You guys with me on this? Yes. They're beginning to realize, well, what are the problems? So there's a couple of follow-up questions. Like you talk about the technology platform. They gave it a 4 on a scale from 0 to 10. You ask, what's happening that caused it to give it a 4 instead of a 10? Well, the lead flow is inconsistent. The quality of the leads is terrible. Whatever they say, what they're doing is they're venting. They're really embracing the negativity. And that's what we want. Then you ask, well, what's your plan to move that from a 4 to a 10? Now, oftentimes, guys, they'll volunteer. They'll say, well, Sean, that's why I said yes to this meeting. Well, that's fantastic. See, they're looking for a solution. So they're never going to look for a solution to a problem unless they know a problem exists. So by going through a 0 to 10 rating system, what you're doing is letting them self-discover, hey, I may have a problem. In fact, if I stay here at Berkshire Hathaway, it might not bring me to this positive future that I seek. So we got to move them psychologically downward from a positive present mindset to a negative present. So I add up the numbers. Okay, out of a possible score of 50, you've given your current broker a 9 on a scale from 0 to 10. Now, how do you feel about that number? Do you believe it's accurate? See, if we use the academic grading system, that would be an 18%, definitely not a passing grade. Let me ask you, believe in the statement that if you do what you've always done, you're going to get what you always got. Now, do you also believe that in order to get to better, we have to get to different? They always say yes to that. Now, describe your business, your life, your income, your net worth 5 years down the road. If nothing in the ratings you've just given your broker changes. See, that's negative present to negative future. Then from negative future, once you get them there psychologically, they're more open. Their defenses have now been lowered. They're looking for a solution to the problems that they just self-discovered. And now it's about the positive future. See, notice that when I'm going through a 0 to 10 rating system, I resist the temptation to start EXPing on them. I don't talk about EXP at all. I'm just bringing context. And what I'm doing is stacking negativity on top of negativity. You guys with me on this? Making sense? All right. So no matter their brokerage, guys, it doesn't matter if it's KW. And there's a couple of profound points of differentiation between KW and EXP. Number 1, profit share at Keller Williams. Great model. It was the best we had back in the day. Yet it's based on net operating income. You could attract 50 agents to KW, yet if the market centers they join are not profitable, and many of them are not, well, then they don't get any profit share. At EXP, it's based on gross revenue. There are no expenses taken out of it. They sell a house, pay EXP 20%, you're guaranteed to be paid. Guys, profound point of differentiation. Plus the ability to go to anybody in your state, give a cash offer with zero financial risk or obligation, not available anywhere else other than EXP that I know of. So any brokerage, there are profound points of differentiation. What you've got to do is put a magnifying glass on it. Now I'm talking way more than I wanted to today. So Darren, I'm going to jump over to you. Go for it.
Yeah, Albie, just a quick question. So you talked about your hit list, and this kind of segues off of Todd's question about, developing our avatar. My avatar, I only go over only cappers only. And when I go into Market View Broker, I pull up a list of 3 million to 10 million in production. If they don't fall in those two parameters, they don't make my list. What's your experience and scalability to build our teams fast? Do you teach your people to go after brokers and team leaders, or do you have different avatars for different people?
Well, there's different avatars for different people based upon where they're at in the, on their journey. If they're early on, then they have different problems than someone who's trying to, take their small brokerage that's doing 300 transactions and they're trying to scale it. They're trying to, versus someone who's trying to get to their first 20. So I think that what you're doing is you're identifying a good subset of agents. It's not going to be a very big one in a particular market, but it's a solid demographic. If I would, you're talking about producers. So the content that you're going to be putting out there, whether it be like video content, you're going to be speaking to that particular avatar that's doing that number of production, if that makes sense. I look for hungry, humble, smart. Hungry, humble, smart. Those are the three things. Now, if somebody is, I happen to have on my hit list team leaders and independent brokers. That's who I think I can associate most with, because a lot of those people want to grow their organizations and they want leverage, and that falls right into our wheelhouse. But I've also brought on dozens and dozens of agents who are just trying to get to their first 20 transactions. And we have coaching in place that helps them with that. So I'll talk to them. I'll have appointments with them. So I'm not going to say that I don't want to work with them, because I absolutely want to work with them. And what I normally would do is when I had my team, I would put them on my team. So I had two avatars. I had an avatar of someone who would not go on my team, who I would probably help them start their own team or help they already have a team. Or I have someone that falls in the avatar of going on my team, and I would have them, that would be the person who's probably trying to get to their first 20 transactions and whatnot. And I'd put them on Stacek Group. Now that I sold Stacek Group last year, I would work with them and put them on another team locally. And there's, a dozen different teams that I can plug them into if need be. So I don't want you to think that I say no to those people. I just don't have them on my hit list of, unless I bump into them, at one of these events that I was talking about, and they're hungry, humble, and smart, then they're going to go on my list, but my energy of who I'm sending my invites to, who I'm sending my weekly text messages to, stuff like that, it's who's on my list, and that I can pick and choose who I want to put on that list, based upon where they're at in their business and where they want to go and how I can help them and where I want to spend my time.
Well put, buddy. Sandy Miller, over to you.
Hi, great call, great call. I had a question regarding, I believe you said you had like 6,500 people in your organization and 37 people FLQA. So my question is how do we get people to, I guess everybody has that in all their organizations, no matter what kind of, who the company is. You're going to have higher producers and not as high producers. But how do we get those people to move forward, and how to train our people to do better? Is that more just a mindset on them, or is that something that we can do different?
I think you have to create an environment for success, like what Sean does. He's consistently has an opportunity for, I don't know if he said it was it Tuesdays, Sean, where you do your thing.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, every one of you can invite agents to this Tuesday call. We don't talk about EXP.
Yeah.
We don't. We talk about how to improve their production and real estate sales. So if you are the one who invites them to the call, well, they automatically, you've increased your influence with that person because you are the one who brought it to their attention. You're the one who made that increase in knowledge and skills happen. So all you have to do is simply go to iconcoaching.com, go to the events tab, go down to Accelerated Breakthrough, click on that, and you can register. You'll get the Zoom meeting link. Send them the Zoom meeting link directly and invite them to engage. Guys, it's free. Just do it. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, Sean, and that's super important too. Same thing with Honey. You know, people think that this is closed off to just our revenue share group. Not true at all. You go to honeybadgernation.com. You guys can go on to any of those trainings, invite to any of those trainings you'd like, and you know, we more than encourage you to do that. There's so much. I think that where people get stuck, Sean, is they complicate this too much. And that's why I said, if we were to break it to one word, it's invite, period. I mean, there's different ways of doing it. There's different ways to answer your question. The young lady who was just Judy, was it? No, who was it? She disappeared from the top. I don't know who that was, but you know, I think your question was like, how do we get person from this point to B, from A to B? The answer to the question is, I think, create an environment for success and continuously invite to that, and then focus on the growers. You're not going to turn someone into a grower. They either have the ambition burning in their belly or they do not. You can't, you know, I don't believe that you can motivate someone from being lazy to all of a sudden they're hungry, ambitious, and they want to grow. Most of the time they want to grow, but they just don't have the path to growth. So you know, be that leader that shows up consistently, and if it's not you, plug them into another system. Sean just gave you the link. You can every Tuesday now, no one has an excuse. You can all invite to Sean's Tuesday. You have honeybadgernation.com. You can go in there, and we have Funnel Fridays where we teach how to build a sales funnel in KV Core. We have skills training on Thursday with Wally Bressler, who coached some of the top agents in the world. You have Wednesday with John Kitchens, Coach Kitchens, who interviews one of our top multi-million-dollar agents, who gives away all of they open their playbook up and give it all for free. Like, there's all your resources are around you. And if you just get into the habit of, you know, identifying your audience, making sure they're invited to all the different places where the value hides, we have to get them to the value. You're going to start building relationships. You're going to build trust. You're going to build authority with your list, which means they're going to listen to you differently. And you're going to start recruiting people, and it's going to it'll feel more organic than forced. At least that's how it's been for us.
No doubt. Guys, there's 4 trainings that we do here at Icon Coaching every week, every one of them free. I just posted a link to the chat. If you choose to, you can click on that, just register. Again, it's free. Trish, last question. Albie, thank you for giving us extra time, brother. Are you okay? Because I don't
was late. My bad. Yeah, no, you got it.
Thank you. I hope this is appropriate, and I feel like the question that I to ask really just got answered. These trainings are absolutely phenomenal. I feel like I'm looking for how to get my recruit number 2, where, you know, we're seeing a lot of large numbers.
Trish, you're breaking up a little bit. I can't
Trish,
hear
we're
you,
having a hard
darling.
time. Maybe get really close to your microphone because we're hearing every other syllable.
Sorry, I'll try it again if it doesn't work.
Much better.
So I was saying these trainings are really great. And the mind-blowing expansion that we grow with this is just mind-boggling. But I'm really looking at, how do I get to recruit number 2? So Sean, you have a great script. I like that script. But the first part of your script talked about something that you could give them of value, help solve a problem that they have. I feel like, you know, I am 2.5 years into the business, and I'll be talking to people who've been in the business way more than I have. I don't think I have anything to offer. Like, you could solve a problem because you're a coach, you can help them. I don't feel like I have that way to contribute to that. So when Aubrey was talking about like got all of your events. Would that be something you would advise someone like me that I could as the leverage to try to help me solve a problem?
Well, absolutely. There's leverage all around you. You just need to grab those levers and pull them. That's all I'm saying. So with that said, though, there's the lead-in conversation, and then there's the attraction conversation, right? So the lead-in conversation has one goal, and that's to set an appointment to get them to investigate the model. So the lead-in conversation anybody can have. Now, to investigate the model, maybe you feel like you need to understand everything about electricity, how it works, how it goes through the transformers, how it gets into your house in order to turn on a light switch. Well, you don't. You can simply flip on the switch. So you set that next call and then reach out to somebody that's a partner in your organization. Maybe it's lateral to you, maybe it's below you in the rev share organization, maybe it's above you. Yet reach out to a partner, edify that partner to your candidate, and let them do the heavy lifting. Let them help you attract that agent. They'll add them right to your front line. It's mutually beneficial. So why not? Why not? By the way, if they're a whale from Keller Williams, please reach out to me. I'll be happy to have a quick conversation with them and tell them the profound points of differentiation, why I made the decision, and that may help influence them at the same time. Albie, what would you say?
I wanted to make sure that I heard the question correctly, but was it around like how to begin the conversation?
No, it was more, she's newer to real estate. Maybe she doesn't have the results. Maybe she doesn't have that coaching background and feels, and the limiting belief is that I have nothing to offer them. And Trish, I'm kind of summarizing and giving the cliff notes, yet truthfully, that is the limiting belief. I have nothing to offer them. I don't hold a candle to their level of production or experience level. So why would they want to listen to me, right? See, that's MIC talking. MIC is an acronym. We all have a MIC. It stands for my inner cynic. It's going to tell you all the negative things and really beat you down and keep you in this little comfort bubble, right? So how do you overcome that mindset, Albie? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so we have a script, Trish, for and if there's a training that Mike Reese did a long time ago on it's at agentattractiontraining.com. I believe you can find it. And so I'll give you a full disclosure. It's a little bit dated, but the principles behind it are exactly the same. Like he wrote this and recorded it, I think 3.5 years ago. But the principles are still the same. One of the scripts that's in there is how to speak to someone who's at a higher level than you, which is a different script than you would use if they're at the same production level or economic. We call it socioeconomic level as you, or someone that's maybe at a lower. Let's say you've been in the business for 10 years and you're talking to someone who's just got their license. So you have a different conversation. And when you're going up, you always want to begin it with a compliment and a sign of respect because they've been down a path you haven't. And typically that's what we teach. It's like, when you're kind of looking up, you're more complimentary. And it would be something like if I was like Sean, because Sean's been a coach, he's got way more coaching hours than I do, stacked. I'd be like, Sean, man, I really respect everything that you've done over the years in the coaching space. I mean, wow. I don't know how many hours and hours of coaching calls you have, but you've done really respectable. And I congratulations on your success. If you wouldn't mind asking me, Sean, in your journey and your path to where you've gotten, what would you say, like the biggest thing I need? I want to, I'm trying to get to where you're at. So like, what advice would you give me if you were me 20 years ago, like when you were just starting your journey out? What would the number one thing that you would tell me that would help me avoid some of the pitfalls that I know that you probably hit along the way? And I would come from a position of genuinely, that's the key here, genuinely be curious on them and what's gotten them there and what the lessons and principles that they've learned along the way, and then be a learner and listen to what they're saying. Don't be a linear listener, like where you're just listening and on to the next question. Really go deep with it. And I think that's how you build rapport with someone who's at a higher socioeconomic level than you. But go and check that training out, and there's some scripts in there that you can download too.
Great. I love that strategy, Albie. And I have the pleasure and the honor of mentoring many people in their growth. And the number one thing that somebody can do is come from a position of humility, come from a position of, I've got this problem. You've probably solved that problem. What should I do? And I'll pour into them. I'll give them my 2 cents, right? And the best thing they can do is report back to me that they implemented what I asked them to do. That's the best thing somebody can do. Number one, it gives me fulfillment, makes me feel really good about that person. And all of a sudden, you've increased your influence with me simply by implementing what we talked about and reporting back to me. So I think that's great advice, Albie. And what a great reason to follow up with this person after the conversation as well, right?
Yeah, Sean, I never thought of it that way, but when you flip the script and think about when you've given someone advice and they come back to you and they're like, hey, I did this and this and this, you're like, okay, I think I may give you some more of my time.
That's exactly right.
Right. So no, that's brilliant. So, I mean, write that one down. That's great. See, you don't need me on this call, Sean. You got it dialed in, man.
No, brother, hey, you are killing it, Albie. I'm super impressed, and I'm so grateful for your time. I owe you a debt of gratitude. If there's anything I can do for you, brother, seriously, you reach out to me, I'll be there. And especially when it comes to having a boatmate on your trip to Put in Bay this summer, I'm all in. Okay, so thank you for your time, Albie. Thank you, everybody, for your focus, your energy, your attention. This call went way over because of you, Albie, and thank you for being you. Sincerely, I did post to the chat. If you guys maybe want some help, if you're looking for a great coach, I put my personal scheduling link in there. I've never, ever in my entire career done that in a Zoom meeting. I did it today because I want to come from contribution. I want to help everybody I possibly can. So schedule some time with me if you want a little help. Thanks, guys. Talk to y'all soon.